Karin Hall. Welcome to the Restore Lab podcast, where I am interviewing people in the wellness space about topics of conversation that are really big and popular and confusing. And we're trying to kind of debunk a lot of these things that we're seeing on social media, some of these buzzwords, kind of deep dive into some of these conversations that need to be had in the wellness space that, are a little belated, I think. So I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
For those of you who don't know Karin, Karin is a seasoned nurse practitioner focusing on functional medicine, and you just launched your Power of One bespoke Karin functional medicine business.
I did. Power of One Health right here in Saratoga.
I just have to say that I'm so grateful to have you in my circle. I'm so glad we met. When you first came to me and mentioned doing a collaboration about women's health, menopause, I was a little reticent at first because I'm not an expert in that. And then I realized that I need you to help tell us things. And I have a lot of people coming to me with a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions to be had.
So first off, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey to where you are now and starting your business, and then we'll get into women's health.
Okay. So I have been a practicing nurse practitioner since 2001. Predominantly my experience was acute care, hospital-based emergency medicine, critical care. And I did dabble in a plethora of different fields, including everything from med spa to hospice and palliative care to bariatric surgery. I've always been drawn to the wellness world. I was a certified yoga instructor and fitness instructor for years. I taught classes, have been very entrenched in healthy lifestyle practices. So over the years, watching the evolution of healthcare and then entering into the COVID years, it was not only exhausting, it was a little bit demoralizing how very little we were taking care of ourselves in a preventative measure. We're very good at responsive medicine, but we don't do a great job educating people and putting ourselves out there in a preventative space.
In the acute care,
in the acute care world,
medicine.
yeah. I mean, but even in any of the traditional medicines, I think we do a really great job at, preventative medicine in the sense of get your vaccines. We talk about movement and diet, but we don't really do a lot in the education world. And what was really stand out for me was recognizing, I think the current statistics, and don't quote me from a research study, but I'm pretty sure the current statistics show that the average clinician, physicians particularly, get about an average of about an hour of education on women's health, diet and exercise, and true nutritional guidance. They only get about 6 to 8 hours worth, which isn't very much when you look at the breadth of their experience and their training.
Yeah, I knew somebody in medical school, and I think 6 to 8 hours is even generous with the nutrition, and very behind with recommendations for using diet and lifestyle to have positive outcomes.
100%. So post-COVID, that kind of really started to wear on me, I felt that we were doing a disservice. So I started researching a little bit of functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, integrative medicine, and yeah, it just pushed me into doing something different. The level of learning that it took me to, in spite of having over 20 years of clinical experience, it was so eye-opening and exciting. Like medicine, if you will, got healthy again, and it got exciting again.
Yeah.
So it pushed me into that, and I'm so grateful for it. And I got certified with the Functional Medicine Academy, and I'm a member of IFM, and I'm doing some of their training.
All of the things.
And all the things. And it is a never-ending opportunity to learn new stuff, and I'm loving every minute of it.
I think they're calling it Medicine 3.0.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like.
And yet, the interesting thing is I wrote a paper years ago, and one of the quotes was, and you see it a lot more now, talking about how the physician of the future won't be prescribing pills. They'll be prescribing nutrition, exercise, activity.
Food is medicine.
Food is medicine, yeah. So I feel like it's a full circle. We're coming back around to recognizing that there isn't a pill for every ill, but there is a lifestyle choice to be made to prevent needing a pill.
It's almost like I think that we've gone so far away from the lifestyle piece that people are almost like, oh my gosh, where are we? Like we woke up and we're like, where even are we? And now there's this backslide to back into, well, let's focus on the foundations, let's focus on the basics, because that has worked, and that does work.
And that's really the foundation of functional medicine, right? It's root cause medicine. It's getting to the underlying root causes of what creates disease or disease or, imbalances, if you want to talk about balance or dysfunction.
Yeah, exactly. And you live out these principles yourself. I know you as a friend, and, we talk about these things all the time, and we use these principles in our own lives. Let's dive into talking about women's health. We're both women here. And I think the reason that I really wanted to bring this to the forefront is because this is a topic that, one, is kind of having a moment when we're talking about women's health as it relates to hormones. But a lot of the research historically has been really focused on men, because women are a little bit more complex from the hormone perspective.
Shh, don't tell the men that.
Complex isn't always a bad thing.
That's true.
In research studies, when trying to control for all the variables, we add this complexity because of the menstrual cycle, the 30-day cycles, and the hormones. And it's almost like they were like, that's too complicated. We can't study that.
We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But definitely the complexity, as well as just the volume. And we now make up more than 50% of the population. So I think we're driving the conversation in a lot of ways, and in a good way.
It needs to be said. And yet also, I think there's a lot of, again, on social media, a lot of buzzwords and things being thrown around, like hormone imbalances and use this to balance your hormones. And I think we need to go back to the start and even talking about like, what hormones are we even talking about? And then what does hormone dysfunction mean? So do you want to just give us like a Reader's Digest version of our women's hormones? And I guess this is a little bit more about the sex hormones, but feel free to talk about other hormones in the endocrine system that are related.
Sure. So when we talk about hormones, and I'll focus more on women because that's our topic today, women's hormones, you tend to think about the estrogens, the progesterones, the testosterones, which traditionally they talk about men with testosterone, but yes, we have it too, and we need it. But when we think about women and their hormones, those 2 to 3 tend to be the key. I think it's really important that we recognize that we have 50 plus hormones that rage through our bodies at any given time. And the notion of a balanced hormone is kind of a misnomer. And I say that because our hormones are forever fluctuating. Like, they're not meant to be stable
or static.
Yeah, they change hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month,
year to year,
year to year,
decade to decade.
Exactly. So I think the language we use right off the bat tends to be confusing for people. So I don't call it an imbalance or balancing our hormones. I mean, there are periods in our lifetime when our hormones may be a little more chaotic.
That's a good way to put it.
But I don't think it means that they're out of balance.
Yeah.
They just cause some symptoms that make us feel out of sorts.
I like to think of them as knobs being turned up and turned down, right?
Yes.
And there are things that make them get turned up and things that make them get turned down. And it's like figuring out those things. And
I think it's important to recognize that those up and down turns are normal. They're natural. It's the body's normal way of self-regulating. Doesn't always mean something's wrong or out of balance. It just means this is where we are right now. And then we forget that insulin is a hormone. Cortisol is a hormone. We have a lot of, ghrelin and leptin are hormones.
Our hunger hormones.
So when we talk about, our thyroid is hormone regulated.
Huge.
All of these things, when we talk about women's hormones in particular and the phases of our life going from, our younger years and getting into starting your menstrual cycle, and then you get into that 20 to 40 range where you're kind of living out your life and things seem to be going pretty well. And then usually between 35, 40, we start to enter perimenopause, where things get a little more chaotic until we hit menopause and then postmenopause. But recognizing that all of those hormones are flooding through our body at different levels at every age and stage.
Yeah.
So just keeping that in mind and not thinking of it as a good thing or a bad thing, but they all interconnect.
And it sounds like what you're saying is it's not just about the sex hormones. It's not just about estrogen and progesterone, even though those are a huge part of the conversation. But how is our blood sugar, that's impacting the insulin, that's impacting the ghrelin, the leptin, those sorts of
100%.
things. And I always found it so interesting when I learned about the endocrine systems and how, again, they're all tied back up into the brain, like the
HPA,
fill in the blank
yeah.
axis.
Yeah.
So they all have these common connections back upstream. So if we have a lot of these varied symptoms, let's swim upstream and see what's going on.
Yes. And that's really what functional medicine's all about. And that really has been so exciting to get back into and to get a better understanding of what's happening in our bodies.
I love it. I think it's a good conversation. And when I talk about hormones with people, I'm saying hormone dysfunction, so to speak, is a downstream impact of upstream things happening. Mm-hmm. And to your point, like when you get your hormones checked, it's a snapshot in time, and the next couple of days could show something different. So you kind of have to take objective things with a grain of salt and see how you're actually feeling and combine those things.
1,000%. And we look at that in functional medicine. We look at not just your blood levels for hormones, which again are a total snapshot. Mm-hmm. We look at hormones in your urine, and you may take a urine test 4 times in a day to see how your levels fluctuate throughout the day. We can test saliva for certain things. We could do hair testing because a lot of your hormones don't lie in your bloodstream. They lie more in your cellular level.
Yep.
So if we're not looking and testing the cellular level, we're not getting the bigger picture.
From my understanding, the saliva measures are the better measures or more predictable, but less commonly tested.
Correct. And a lot of these tests are not part of your traditional blood testing.
No, they're not covered by insurance.
Insurances limit that, yes.
Which I think is a huge part of the issue, making this accessible for the average person. So with these buzzwords about balancing hormones, is there more hormone dysfunction these days than there was previously, or are we just talking about it more?
So I think that's a yes and yes answer. I definitely think we're talking about it more because we have more awareness around it. Is there more of it? I think there may be a little more because, again, we are also more aware of all those disruptors, those endocrine disruptors, and we're looking at things more. And again, I think we're also testing more. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yes, we're absolutely talking about it more. The conversations, it's anywhere from social media and the influencers to the congressional hearing that was just held talking about testosterone and the importance of women's health and putting more focus on women's health as a whole. So I think the talking about it piece is absolutely driving a lot of this. Do I think there's more of hormone disruption or imbalances? Maybe a little.
Yeah.
So I would say yes and yes to answer those questions.
I agree from looking at it from the whole toxic soup situation that we live in and all of the endocrine disruptors. I also just think we're talking more about it too. So, and they're good conversations to be had, quite frankly. So we're going to go into, again, some of these clickbait verbiage things that we've been seeing a lot and see, the validity behind them. What are your thoughts on seed cycling during a woman's menstrual cycle? So we will get to more of the perimenopause, menopause conversation. I think that'll be the brunt of this, but in terms of menstruating females, there's a lot to talk about there. What are your thoughts?
What is seed cycling? Let's say that first for people who maybe don't know. Seed cycling is eating specific seed-based products, nuts, those kind of things, flax seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, and timing those within your cycle. Because a lot of those seeds have like isoflavonoid you get from some of those products, particularly pumpkin seeds and things, and flax. They tend to mimic estrogen-like behavior. So
the weak binders.
Yeah, and we tend to think when we're younger and we're having our menses and we're in our cycle, we tend to have more muscle, which is supported by our estrogen levels. So the theory is if you seed cycle, you're enhancing your estrogen level, which enhances your weight regulation, your muscle mass, including some of your sleep cycle and all of those, your anxiety and depression responses. Can eating seeds timed with your cycle have an impact? I think the literature shows that the volume that you have to eat to get an impact is pretty high. And I don't think that the average person is getting enough to have a huge impact. But I'll also say with that, I don't think it has any harmful effects. So
they're whole foods.
Yeah, I don't discourage it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are breaking down that menstrual cycle and say, well, how am I feeling and what am I eating in my follicular phase? How am I feeling? What am I eating in my luteal phase? And I think, quite frankly, like, cool, you know, if people want to do that and they find benefit from it. And I think that there is good conversations going on between, like, we don't have to be doing the same thing every single day of the month because our hormones aren't doing the same thing every single day of the month.
100%. And I think it also highlights the fact that we have a generation of women who are really getting more in touch with and listening to what's happening in their body. Mm-hmm. And there's never a negative effect from that. I think that's a huge key. So absolutely. Ovulation, again, during that whole cycle when you're having your menses, your estrogen's rising and falling, your progesterone is rising and falling. And so if you're trying to listen to what that does to your body and you're paying attention to it, I'm all for it.
Okay, cool. So seed cycling if you want to, and they're beneficial things for health anyway. And that's kind of on the same realm of talking about phytoestrogens in soy and flax. I think there is a conversation about, are these harmful? Are they helpful? My take on it is it depends. It depends on, again, your age, what you're using it for, where you are. What are your takes on this?
Pretty much the same. I'm on board with that. I feel I got a bad rap for a while, and people moved away from it. But again, those products still have some value. I will also say, same thing as the seed cycling. You have to take enough of the nutrition in. And I think the recommendation is anywhere, depending upon where you are in your age, but let's say you're perimenopausal to menopausal in your life cycle, you have to get like 40 to 50 grams of those in. And that's really hard to do. I think the average American only takes in about 2 grams a day. So being really intentional, again, do I think it has a negative harm? For the average person, probably not. But again, it really depends on your genetics, your health, your stage of life, and what else you're doing.
And I think it's interesting too because people talk about soy primarily, but the phytoestrogens are also in lignans and legumes and things like that, where it's not just soy, you know, and flaxseed and things like that. And those plant-based things are, like you said, it's a weak estrogenic binder. So it's not going to be some huge impact, but could it be a support when you need support there? Sure.
Absolutely. And getting in those additional omega-3s and, you know, it's not just about that one component, because that, again, interconnected with all the other nutritional needs that our body's telling us we should be taking.
And that's the cool thing about whole foods is that it's not just one component that does one thing. You've got also plant-based protein in there and fiber, and we like them for hormone health in general anyway.
Absolutely.
So I think we're saying potentially helpful. We don't think harmful.
Correct.
And I have had some clients who have had breast cancer, and they're nervous about soy. The research out there, from my understanding from the Institute for Functional Medicine, is really not necessarily during active treatment, but that actually intake of soy can help prevent remission after the fact.
There's actually been some studies done with nutritional influence during chemo treatments with soy, and it can strengthen your response to some of the chemo treatments.
Yep.
So,
okay, so maybe even
again,
during.
I think you really have to have a good conversation, one with your clinician, two with a nutritionist. Because as we mentioned, a lot of our clinicians don't get great nutritional training. So it's, I think, whatever you're dealing with, you have to deal with from a well-rounded approach.
Obviously doing your research. Like, I have some people on tamoxifen, and when I looked that up with flaxseed intake, same thing. It's kind of helping the tamoxifen do its job better. And so I think it's interesting to round out the soy conversation. I always just say non-GMO and try to find organic.
100%.
Soy being that one of the major GMO crops that's going to be sprayed. Like any type of food, you want quality. Going
back into the whole concept and conversation around endocrine disruptors, a lot of those are coming in through the food that we eat that's contaminated from spraying or, you know, whatever's being chemically injected into our food.
And even what are those foods being stored in? Plastics.
100%.
And containers and things like that. And then being heated and all that. Like, that's all part of the conversation. So it's never just the one thing in isolation.
Absolutely not. That's why everything is interconnected.
For better or for worse, which makes it confusing and also interesting.
I'm going to go with interesting.
We'll go with interesting. So another big ticket item, talking about fasting, specifically, let's talk about intermittent fasting for women. And I think let's use intermittent fasting as being at least a 14 to 16 hour fast. We'll kind of define that as intermittent fasting. And I have opinions on it, and I want to know what your opinions are.
Okay. So I love that we're talking about this, because it's also kind of getting some peak interest these days. A lot of people are talking fasting, particularly people who are doing physical fitness training. The takeaway from fasting, I don't think the average woman benefits from it, particularly not that 14 to 16. I would say, no, you shouldn't be fasting. Women's bodies those hormones trigger, like we talked about, the insulin, the cortisol, they all play together. And if you're fasting for 14 to 16 hours, your body actually needs glucose and your cortisol needs a little support to actually reach peak performance. So if you're fasting, you're actually going into your workout and your day already depleted, and you're not likely to perform at your top level if you've been fasting. So I don't typically tell patients to fast. Now, with that said, I think they're also using the term for fasting as intermittent eating. We're talking about intermittent fasting. It's also referred to as intermittent eating because we're timing our eating as well as timing when we don't eat. And I don't think the idea of maybe not eating from, say, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. is terrible. But if you're intentionally fasting that 14 to 16 hours, I'm in the no camp for women. That's not beneficial.
I agree with you from the longer. I do like a 12-hour fast, overnight fast personally. But when you get into those longer time frames, like you said, I also just think it's really hard for people in an 8-hour eating window. If we're trying to tell people to get a certain amount of protein, it's really hard to get that much protein in an 8-hour eating window. People are going to be full.
Absolutely. And you're trying to do that for most people. It's during your workday hours. I mean, trying to fit that in between work, running the kids, whatever you're doing at that point, it's challenging.
Yeah.
And I do think there's been some literature to show that women, ideally, based on their cortisol, their insulins, and their glucose, and all of those things combined, tend to have best performance if they're actually eating, say, from 8 to 5. Like there's actually a time frame throughout the day when we really should be feeding. Yep. So if you're someone who's doing a 14 to 16 hour fast and you don't have your first meal until 11, 12 o'clock, not great. Yep. And particularly a lot of people while they're fasting will still have, say, black coffee. They need their caffeine kick. That's another kick for your cortisol.
Exactly.
Which increases your stress level, which just, it's counterintuitive to what our body really needs.
And I also think a lot of the women that are doing this are busy, stressed out, either working moms or women in the workplace that have those cortisol issues anyway. And
always,
point blank, fasting is a stressor on the body, right? And there are good stressors and there are not good stressors on the body, right? So I think it can be used as a beneficial stressor when you don't have other stressors going on. Most of us in this world have enough stressors going on that then we're overloading the stressors and it's not becoming beneficial anymore. From my understanding, especially women in the, hormone and reproductive ages, that it is taking a hit with our hormones, with our sex hormones. And so again, all the intermittent fasting studies that said that was beneficial were done on men. So I think men can get away with a lot more than women can, but we are different. Women are not small men, and that's what we're here to talk about and agree with today.
Absolutely.
So intermittent fasting sounds like, again, how many hours, maybe short-term fasting, 12-hour overnight fast, but not intermittent fasting for women at any point. I
not
think.
Really, no.
Until we know more in the research, right?
Yeah.
Like we need more research on women to come out at different times in our lives.
Yeah. What we do know from the studies, and Stacey Sims talks about this too, is that for women, particularly when you get up to start your day, if you're going to go work out, you should not work out on a fasting level. You need, on average, I think they're saying up to about 10 to 15 grams of protein to kickstart that cortisol, that response, so that you're actually going to not burn your muscle and gain some value. So what a lot of us were doing, particularly when fasting has been so popular, is we're actually going against what our bodies need. And we may have some weight loss. We're not getting the muscle gain that we're seeking.
And that's the metabolic protector right there. We want the muscle.
We absolutely do.
For so many reasons: metabolic health, longevity, blood sugar regulation, all those things. Also, I have found in clients that I've worked with, moving, say, that first meal up from noon to 8 or 9 or whenever it works, then they can get a balanced, wholesome meal in with some protein, fiber, healthy fats, and then they're eating a lunch. Their energy levels are better. They're not getting energy crashes in the afternoon, everything's a little bit more stable. And then we're also kind of preventing cravings too later. Like the proof is in the pudding of like, hey, if you don't believe us, try it and see how you feel. Try it on for size in your own body and see how it goes for you.
And if you're somebody who doesn't want to eat a full meal when you first start your day, you know those people who say, "Oh, I don't eat breakfast. I'm not hungry in the morning."
Yep.
That's totally fine. Maybe you add a little bit of a protein powder or something to your morning coffee, so you're getting your caffeine with your protein to get some of that protective measure.
Especially for the cortisol. Yeah.
Exactly. And it will also help kind of level out those sugars, that insulin response that happens because our sugars tend to trend as well. So again, those are all hormone regulated effects that your nutrition plays a tremendous part of.
So I think we're in agreement with the intermittent fasting. And I think that's an important thing for people to hear. Before we get into perimenopause and menopause, talking about cortisol and fasting being a stressor, stress in general, like what role does stress play in hormone health? And I guess we could say like, again, slated towards women's health.
Ooh, what doesn't it play a role in, right?
Seriously.
So we know cortisol is one of those hormones that helps regulate our stress response. So does our progesterone. Helps respond with our anxiety, mood, depression. So if you're stressed out, stress puts pressure on your adrenals. It puts pressure on all of your thyroid. It disrupts your sleep, which then disrupts your other hormones. Like stress is a major player. It's like that, all of them.
It's like that thing in the spider web that everything else just like expands from.
I feel like stress is the spider web. Let's talk about how many people stress eat. Like, oh, I'm feeling stressed out, so I'm going to eat. A lot of that is, if you can break it down into a chemical response, you're having a cortisol response, which leads to a insulin and glucose response, which is connected to your ghrelin and leptin response. So if you can think of it at that level, it all makes sense.
It's all like
exactly. So how we respond to stress, we don't sleep, we eat, or we don't eat. Mm-hmm. Like that is all hormone connected.
Yeah, there's two camps. There's the stress eaters and the people that won't think about food at all.
Absolutely.
Which I think
stress impacts your thyroid. It affects everything.
It affects everything. And I think, again, in the women's health conversation, because I'm having, fertility conversations with people too, and it's like you can be doing a lot of things right, but if you're stressed about your health or if you're stressed about these things being perfect or things like that, like that stressor is worse than any of the other things that you're doing.
Yes.
Because that can just put such a damper on really the signaling.
Yeah.
And cell signaling because of that hormonal cascade that stress causes.
Yeah. So if we think stress doesn't play a role, we're looking at the wrong picture. It's a huge component.
And that's why I like functional medicine, is because I'm a nutritionist, I'm a physical therapist, and I think those things are very important. And yet if you have your movement and your food dialed in and you're stressed out as heck, they're not doing as much for you as you think they might be.
They're not. And that's been proven to play itself out in the literature. We know that stress has an impact on everything from your cardiovascular health to your endocrine health to your hormone health to your brain health.
To general well-being and happiness.
Yeah. So.
And I'm saying this as somebody, listen, I'll be the first one to say I get stressed out, right? And also I'm trying to put more time and energy lately into like nervous system regulation. And, I do feel like I have my movement dialed in. I do feel like I have my nutrition dialed in. So for me, that is the next natural step. And also that's one of those modifiable lifestyle factors in the functional medicine paradigm of like stress is one of the major nodes. And so it can't be discounted that needs to be part of our overall conversation talking about good health.
Absolutely not. And then you're talking about keeping your nutrition dialed in and your activity dialed in, but you have to talk about your stress, your sleep, and then you have to look at what's your support system and yes, your nutrition, what you eat, what you put in your gut. Your gut regulates a lot of these transmitters that then impacts your mood.
Yep.
So it really is
axis.
So all-encompassing.
Yeah.
That it's a major player.
Yeah. Stress impacts us at the level of the gut in terms of like that permeability. Like you said, that bidirectional axis, brain, gut, with anxiety and things like that. And that relates to digestion, right? When people get nervous, sometimes they have the poops and the diarrhea and things like that. It shows how connected
Everything is.
psychosocial things are.
And how many studies, you know this, how many studies have we seen done with nutrition and behavior? How we, ADHD is impacted by
ADHD is
changing
huge.
nutrition.
Cognition.
Your mental cognition, that brain fog that you walk around in, it all, I think that is the beauty of the functional medicine wheel. We work off of a wheel, and that includes everything from your sleep, your nutrition, your hydration, your support system. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
And the wheel is such a beautiful visualization that it's full circle.
Full circle, exactly. And things can go in one direction in a vicious cycle, and then also when you start moving in a positive direction, then kind of off to the races in a good way.
Yeah, so it's great.
Okay, so let's get down to perimenopause, because for me, I think perimenopause is such a gray area of like years of age, of symptoms. Can you start with what age we're generally seeing people move into perimenopause and what that picture looks like in the average woman?
Sure. So we traditionally start to see some of our hormones declining at 30 to 40 years of age. Perimenopause for most women tends to start around 40, and it can last 4 years. It can last 10 years for some people. We're seeing that the average age for women to actually hit menopause is 50 to 51, 52. So perimenopause is that window of time from when your hormones start to decline, naturally produced, and the body goes into chaos because your hormones are in chaos. They are really starting to fluctuate. If you think about pre-perimenopause, when you are in your, let's go for simplicity, let's say 20 to 40, your cycles tend to be pretty regular. Your hormone, while they fluctuate, are pretty cyclical, right? Mm-hmm. That's why we call it a cycle.
Yep.
And they're pretty predictable. When you enter perimenopause and things start to shift, they're chaotic. They don't follow a plan. Yeah, they don't follow the cycle that we're used to, which is why it's such a challenging time for women.
And it's frustrating.
It's so frustrating. As someone who's lived it, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different for everyone. Now, there are those classic signs of perimenopause. You start to see your sleep may become more disrupted. Your mood will shift. You may be a little bit more irritable or responsive. You may find some weight gain, particularly across your abdomen or midsection.
Midsection, yep. That's huge.
Muscle mass starts to decrease. You might start to see some more insulin resistance happening. So this is the age where we tend to develop that diabetic phase. All of those things start to come into play, and that really is relayed back to those fluctuating hormones that affect everything.
So basically, it's like a very slow downward trend of estrogen and progesterone.
Yes.
Over, it sounds like a couple years to up to a decade.
Yeah. Anywhere from typically 4 to 10 years is when we see that.
Is there any reason why some people have a much shorter time and some people have a longer time in this?
Nothing that I can speak to that is specific. I don't know if there's any real data. It may be genetic. And it may also be lifestyle. I mean, I have to believe that what you're putting in your body that's impacting all those disruptors.
Right.
It's particularly, what other metabolic issues do you have happening?
Right. And especially if we're becoming less insulin sensitive and becoming more insulin resistant, are we changing our diet for that? Dietary wise, is there anything that you would recommend in that perimenopause phase of, it sounds like, let's start to think about protein.
Protein,
which
for
we've already
sure.
been talking about. Hopefully we've already been working on that.
Strength training.
Strength training.
I mean, when we talk about exercise and nutrition for women, particularly during this phase, I mean, I grew up in the era of aerobics and step classes, and it was all about getting your cardiovascular health in, which is still, I'm not taking away the value of some cardiovascular health. It's important.
Sure.
But then it was into, let me do my 15 reps with three sets and lighter weights because we didn't want to bulk up. Yeah, we're worried about getting too much. But the truth is, when you start to enter into this phase, because of those declines, you start losing your muscle mass, which lends to that insulin resistance. It's really important that you start adding in some heavier resistance training.
I love to hear that. And we know that muscle mass starts to decrease with everyone at age 30.
Yeah.
By increasingly so every decade, so that that muscle mass will help with also the the insulin and the blood sugar regulation too, closely tied.
Completely closely tied. And yeah, I mean, even just our stem cells we're all born with stem cells and they start to decline. Everything systemically starts to shift when, 30 is kind of like a magic number.
Yeah.
It's a great age, and it's also an introduction to what takes you to your next phase in life, which is great. Like, honestly, my 30s were great. My 40s were good. My 50s have been fabulous.
It's only getting better.
It's only getting better.
I love that. That's such a good reframe.
Yeah.
And I think that's true.
And I think if you're aware and if you're doing the things, do I work out the same way I did when I was 20 now? No, because my body needs something different. Mm-hmm. So being aware of that and not doing the same thing all the time.
That's huge. That's huge. And especially as more research comes out, then we mold with the research. And I like to say all the time, we reserve the right to change our mind if research comes out to say, hey, actually, we weren't right there, but now we're finding this.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a good time to talk about the HRT, the hormone replacement therapy conversation, because that's been a huge, shift and backslide in the past, recent years. Yeah. Do you want to give us a brief history of hormone replacement therapy, where they were using it, they stopped using it, and now we're using it again with a little bit more frequency, and maybe why that happened?
Sure. So I want to say it was in the 1960s, Women's Health Initiative was started, and that was doing a longitudinal study and a longevity study looking at women, interestingly enough, looking at women using conjugated equine estrogen hormone combined with progestin. So the Premarin and the Prempros were being prescribed. The idea was that they had some value for cardiovascular protection, bone density, strength, and of course, the vasomotor symptoms, those hot flashes that we all complain about. Mm-hmm. And they actually stopped the study early after 10 years. It was supposed to be a 15-year study. They stopped it after 10 because they were finding many women were developing blood clots, heart attacks, strokes. Increased risk of breast cancer was being identified. There were more breast cancer diagnosed. So they halted the study, and many women who had been put on hormone replacement therapy were taken off of it. What was the problem with the study? The problem with the study is that conjugated equine estrogen is not the same as human estrogen. So we typically, horses. Yeah, we're talking horses. They have 21 different types of estrogen. We have 3. So that was step 1. Number 2, we use progestins, which is what actually increased your clotting risk. So that was 2 major factors. So you were seeing negative effects because we were using products that are not natural to our body, and certainly at levels that we're not used to. The other issue is that study was predominantly done on women 63 years of age and older. So you're looking at an older age population, which is already at risk for more problems, right? So a later study was done revisiting this and looking at it and re-implementing it, this time using more natural bioidentical hormones from us and not horses, with the addition of progesterone, if needed. Not everybody got it. And those studies came back showing that the increased cardiovascular risks weren't present. The thing about the cardiovascular, that blood clotting stuff, I mean, think back to the younger women that we put on birth control pills. We're giving them hormone. That's a hormone, right? Low dose hormone. One of the risks that we tell young women on birth control pills is that you shouldn't smoke, you have to stay active. Side effects are increased clotting risks. That is still an issue, but it's at a far much lesser rate. The new data is if we do what's called bioidentical hormones, which are still made in a lab, we're not testing you and using your own, but it's a bioidentical hormone made in a lab simulating natural estrogen. That has a much safer, effective profile. It's mimicking our own body's natural process, our own estrogen. Some women are prescribed the progesterone, some are not. It really depends. Again, it's very specific to what your needs are. In theory, we should all be testing our hormone levels, which I don't know.
Don't guess.
Yeah, we test, don't guess in functional medicine. And that information is very helpful to help determine whether or not you need estradiol, do you need progesterone? What exactly do you need? The other interesting thing with hormone therapy is it used to only be in a pill. Now it's in a cream, it's in a patch.
Topical, yeah.
It's,
different
pellets.
modes of delivery.
Yeah, we have so many new different, you can do injectable, you can do pellets.
I've heard of the pellets.
Yeah, some women love them, some women don't.
It's nice that there's options to try if one thing doesn't work well.
100%. And not, some people don't tolerate, maybe it's if you're using a patch, maybe there's something in the patch that doesn't agree with you. And it also depends on what you're treating. So vaginal lining and thinning is best treated with a cream. A vaginal cream.
Local to the site of the issue.
Right.
Which makes sense. So basically doctors had gotten away after that study. Everyone got nervous about
Everybody got
prescribing it.
nervous about it. So we stopped prescribing it. And it still requires a lot of education and information and retraining because not everybody's on board with the new research.
Yeah.
But it's pretty indisputable at this point that the study was a bad design, period.
It does seem like now a lot more people are getting it at the appropriate times. And I think appropriate time is the important word there, but I agree. I also think there's still a lot of doctors that are still nervous about it. It's again
100%.
like the whole soy conversation. Things were debunked and we've moved away from it, but there are still people out there that haven't gotten on board yet.
Correct. And that's not to say that hormone therapy replacement is for everybody. And
Right.
you may hear it called HRT or MHT, menopausal hormone therapy, or just hormone HT. There's all different languages for it, and it's not for everyone.
It depends on what your symptoms are.
True. But it's important that if you're having symptoms, you have the conversation with your clinician because you don't need to suffer.
Yeah.
You don't need it, whether that's hormones, like hot flashes, or if that's vaginal thinning, low libido, weight gain, joint pain, eczema. Your skin changes as we get older because of those hormones. So all of those things, that brain fog, we all talk about menopause brain, that brain fog that you're walking around in, the sleep disruption that happens with menopause, all of those things you don't have to suffer through. There's treatment options. Have the conversation with your providers.
What's appropriate for you.
Exactly.
And, you talking about sleep and brain fog and all these things, like one, if you have brain fog, you're not going to be able to have the best workout or make decisions about your nutrition. You're going to just go for the next closest thing. Sleep, if you're not sleeping well, that screws with everything, which is why it's such a foundation in functional medicine to really work on.
Yeah. And you hear women saying all the time, like, oh my God, I'm so moody. I don't feel like me when you reach these phases. I don't feel like me anymore. And that has to do with you've changed. Your body has changed and we need to do something different. So even that hormone replacement therapy, I've had women say, my God, I feel like me again. I'm thinking straight. I don't want to bite my husband's head off every time he does something. The kids don't make me anywhere near as crazy as I used to. Wow. I don't want to smother my boss. Like it just, it makes you feel more balanced. So when we talk about imbalance or balancing our hormones, I'd rather just see us be in better balance. It's not so much just the hormones are in balance.
And would HRT be something that's used for an X period of time and then discontinued? Or I'm sure it depends, but.
It depends. But so most women, the rule of thumb right now is if you are menopausal or you're cresting menopause. So menopause, I don't care what they're telling you, menopause is a one-day event. And in my humble opinion, it should be celebrated.
Yes.
Much like a birthday. Menopause is one day. And
Menopause Day.
Menopause Day. And it is the day in which you are exactly 12 months from your last menstrual cycle. So after 365 days, that 365 day, have yourself a little party, take yourself out, celebrate. 66 days, 367 days, you're in postmenopause.
You're in postmenopause. So you are only menopausal for a day.
For a day.
So then you're peri. One day goes by, and then you're post.
Then you are just postmenopause. And I think that's important to recognize.
Yes, I think it's good to define that, honestly.
Yeah. And so for hormone replacement therapy, the recommendation is you should not, if you're already postmenopausal and you are more than, say, 10 years out, hormone therapy replacement is probably not for you.
Yep, that's what I've heard.
If you're within that window, then, and you're having symptoms, I cannot stress enough, have a conversation with your clinicians to see what is appropriate and available to you because you don't have to struggle with those symptoms. And a lot of times we don't even realize it. People say, oh, my thumb hurts, my knee hurts, and my shoulder's always stiff and sore. That may not be, you'll get told it's osteoporosis, it's because you're getting older. It may not be that. It may very well be those are symptoms of menopause.
Do you think a large majority of women in the right age time probably would benefit from it then at some point
Very much.
in
Very
conjunction with other lifestyle factors.
Of course, obviously, we start at the root, and that is your lifestyle. What are you putting
Yeah.
in? What are you putting on your body?
Yeah. So it sounds like, again, HRT is one of those biggest research misconceptions, myth busting things out there, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Thank God we're having the conversation. Like I said, it's not just estrogen and progesterone. There's testosterone. I mean, we give men testosterone all the time. Women have testosterone too, and it's an important hormone in our body to help us regulate. Again, that's where we work with our bone loss, our muscle loss are tied to that as well. So there's a lot of discussion happening right now about making testosterone available to women. It is, but it's very limited.
Okay.
And there's no real standard guidelines or protocols for a lot of it.
Yeah.
So that is really being a hot topic as well right now. So
That'll be interesting to see what happens because most people are like testosterone men, estrogen women. But you're right, we all have all of them. It's
We have
just
all of
that
it.
those dials are at different levels.
yeah, and let's be clear, men have estrogen.
Yeah, exactly.
They absolutely have estrogen, and it's a vital role for them. Theirs just doesn't fluctuate as much and cause as much chaos as ours does.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
So now we've gone from perimenopause. We had our menopause day.
Our menopause celebration.
And then that day 366, now we're in postmenopause. Let's chat about what that looks like from a symptom perspective, and then also a management of symptoms, and also just how do we eat and move and live to feel our best at that age.
Sure. Recommendations right now, I would say, is nutritionally and I really struggle with the word diet because for so many people, that's like a short-term fix to a big problem. Our nutritional plan should
Dietary pattern.
our intake should really kind of mimic the Mediterranean diet. That is the most studied and has some of the best outcomes. Specifically for women, for longevity, for health, for endurance, for function, definitely impacting hormones because eating whole foods, you love to say eat the rainbow, and I love that too. If you're eating the full gamut of ideally non-GMO, organic, healthy foods, that impacts every age and stage of life, but more so I think as we get older and we enter into that postmenopausal phase because we need the nutrients. We need all of those nutrients like the vitamin D, which impacts our bone density and our osteoporosis. And that also is a hormone that we are depleted of as we get older because as our estrogen decreases and our progesterone decreases, all of that gets pulled out of our bones and our systems and plays a role. So I absolutely think nutrition is one.
Yeah.
Right? Still regulating sleep. A lot of people hit menopause and some of those vasomotor symptoms like the hot flashes and sleep disturbance, they may get better without any interference because things start to sort of level out.
So they kind of work themselves out a little bit.
Not for everybody. It's still important to make sure you're focusing on your sleep, you're focusing on your nutrition. This is where, again, that physical fitness training, heavy resistance work. You see a lot of people, and you and I were talking about this before, about explosive movements like the jumping. I just had this conversation. We were talking about, why they were told if you have nothing else in your day, you don't have time to go to the gym or do a 30-minute workout. Just doing a few minutes of standing, jump, touch the floor, stand and jump kind of thing, that's the best move you can do.
Yeah.
And those explosive movements, actually, part of the reason they're so powerful is because you're working against gravity, so you're getting some strength and resistance. It increases your heart rate, so you're getting some cardiovascular benefit. It's kind of a natural movement, that up and down.
It's functional.
It's very functional. It's bending the knees. It's obviously you want to do it with good posture.
Yeah.
But it can be very powerful. So how you work out may need to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Balance is going to be super key. Yoga, if you want to live in a blue zone or be in a blue zone or live to fit into a blue zone. Those all use those type of mechanisms of activity.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-pickleball. I think it's great for people, but it also, when I flip my hat onto the acute care side, that's one of the highest rates of ER visits. for people
in
who
our
get into
outpatient
this.
clinic in PT, we got a lot of rolled ankles,
Yeah.
a lot of pickleball injuries.
I fell down, wiped out, so you want to do things that are going to build your muscle mass, that are going to help, which helps regulate that insulin resistance and all of those things. It also helps with bone density.
Right. It's hitting all those major things, which is why, again, it's going upstream works on all these downstream things. Even combating sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. By the time we get to those ages of post-menopause, we're getting into those decades of getting older, and we really need to be eating enough protein and doing the heavy resistance training with proper form in order to combat sarcopenia, because that is also part of the longevity piece and reducing falls, fractures, loss of independence. I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah, making sure that you're keeping up with your blood work, all your routine testing is also super key. Checking your levels, knowing where you are, cholesterol, sugar, thyroid, vitamin D, vitamin B, magnesium, zinc, selenium. They're all in for brain health as we get older, particularly when we're talking about that menopause brain fog.
Yeah.
Supplementing or at least knowing your levels, also super important.
So, question, are all those perimenopause chaos symptoms, are those going away after your menopause day?
Like I said, for some people things may, but for most people they're going to last a little while.
Like it's like a slow settling of the chips.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do again with your lifestyle, what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think your symptoms are better regulated, or they're minimized at least, if you are staying active and living a healthy life and feeding your body high-level nutrition.
In regards to the nutrition piece, post-menopausally, I feel like a lot of people, in trying to go higher protein, in talking about the insulin resistance picture, are, playing around with this low-carb diet, these sorts of things, and that's just more popular now. I am in agreement with you that the Mediterranean diet is the most well-studied. So when we want to look at recommendations, we do look towards the research. We look back and we look forward and we look and see what's working now. So you can't go wrong with a Mediterranean diet. But what are your thoughts on this low-carb craze, especially for the postmenopausal woman?
So the body needs carbohydrates, whether we like it or not. And this
for
is
hormones.
For our hormones.
For
and quite frankly,
health.
We also need cholesterol. So healthy fats.
Healthy fats are huge for building hormones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are really big right now on low carb, low fat. And that's been a trend for decades. It's not new, but I think we forget that our body needs those things to function optimally. So I think some restriction, or at least choosing healthier carbohydrates, like the complex carbohydrates. And again, looking at your sourcing, important.
Yeah, quality.
And all key.
And those complex carbohydrates would be whole grains and the starchy vegetables, legumes, and beans. And those are like a backbone kind of a healthy hormone diet in general.
Which are all very key to the Mediterranean diet.
Exactly.
I think one other thing that I would say to all of that, because this is a new player in this field, is the GLP-1s, because we have so many people on GLP-1s right now.
So many people. Mm-hmm.
GLP-1s affect our hormones because they play on ghrelin and leptin and insulin and cortisol. They impact all of that through gut health.
Because those are essentially signaling molecules. The GLP-1s themselves are in the gut as signaling molecules.
Exactly.
So that's like a big aha for me, because I know that it impacts. So leptin being our satiety hormone, our gut telling our brain when we're full, and then ghrelin being our hunger hormone. So just for anyone who doesn't know that, but yeah, GLP-1s work at the level of the gut to talk to the brain.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how that's impacting our other hormones.
So, well, first of all, the cortisol, the HPA axis, all of those things are into play with the GLP-1. The thing that I think is an obvious standout for most people is GLP-1s promote weight loss. Yes.
Yes.
Of the GLP-1s, there's a couple of different mechanisms, right? You have your Ozempics or your Wegovy, which work solely or almost solely on the gut. The Zepbounds and the Mounjaro actually have a dual approach. They work on the brain and the gut. So they have two different impacts that ultimately tie back to your hunger hormones, all of those things which we've talked about. So if we're not following a good diet on these GLP-1s, we're not getting the nutrition that we need to support our hormones for transmission of things. The other standout point for me that I think is relative is we talk about GLP-1 induced sarcopenia, which happens naturally as we age. So this is why protein and muscle and bone protection is so vital, which means your nutrition is really your foundation.
I'm really glad you're saying this because these are some of my concerns with it. And I'm not inherently against GLP-1s being used, but being used as a sole intervention for rapid weight loss is really my big concern because people are losing a lot of weight and they're losing it very quickly. And that is causing them to lose their hard-earned lean muscle mass, which is protective. And that does, I really have concerns about what this picture is going to play out in decades to come in the osteoporosis picture, in the metabolic health picture, quite frankly, in a hormone health picture. And to your point with the cortisol, the way that these work are they make you less hungry. The ghrelin is not there in the morning, right? So we're not eating breakfast, maybe not even eating lunch, like skipping meals because you're not getting those sensations. And again, we do need those for that orchestra of everything to, why do we eat? We eat to get those building blocks for our hormones, for our energy pathways, and for everything that we need to function optimally.
Yeah.
So I personally have a lot of concerns about how that's going to play out in the future.
I will say that there's a lot of literature coming out and there's a lot of research being done on how the GLP-1s can actually impact anxiety, depression, addiction. We're seeing that it curbs addiction. So they're actually talking about starting to prescribe these for that purpose. And again, I don't discount the value of a GLP-1. I think they're super beneficial. I think we don't do a solid service to our patients as far as the education surrounding the nutrition required with these medications. We tell you need to increase your protein, you need to increase your fiber, but we don't really talk to you about how do you do that? What does that look like? How much is enough? How much is too little? Hydration. We need enough hydration to make sure that things are functioning smoothly. Like, I just feel like they're being prescribed and used. And for many people, they are improving their cardiovascular health. They are improving a lot of things. But, people are talking about the Wegovy face or the Ozempic face because you lose all this weight here because you're losing muscle mass
that
here.
Cheekbones.
Yeah.
Like the whole thin thing is coming back.
Yeah.
I heard. Which, again, it's not about being thin. I think it's about being strong.
1,000%. That's what I always say too.
I have a lot of concerns about the loss of the lean body mass. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'll be an active observer for sure.
So in addition to HRT, if somebody does or doesn't want to do that, what could somebody do? And this could be either perimenopausal or postmenopausal in maybe a supplemental realm of managing symptoms.
Okay. So there's a lot of supplements out there for various phases of your hormone life. And it extends anything from pregnenolone to ashwagandha to rhodiola to vitamin D supplementation, super key, magnesium, zinc, selenium, all of those supplements, again, knowing your levels, knowing where you are, vitamin B6, B12, folate, there are supplements out there that can help curb some of the side effects. There's Chase Tree.
The Chase Tree is huge. The Vitex.
It absolutely is. I mean, there's so much out there that are either precursors to a hormone or a substance or some type of neurotransmitter support.
And I think that's interesting that you're mentioning all of the vitamins and the B vitamins too, because it's the building, you need the building of them, but then you also need to metabolize and detoxify them from the body too. So it's not just about the building, it's about how is your body processing them. So those B vitamins, those are all also impacting methylation and detoxification in the liver. And so that's fascinating to me. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll speak to my own experience on that. So I consider myself pretty healthy, right? I eat a pretty healthy diet.
Very.
But I have stress. I have sleep disturbance. So I had been supplementing for a while and then opted to do some testing. Again, that test, don't guess. And it turns out that all of those supplements I'm taking, my body's not actually absorbing because my gut health is off and my hormone levels are off. So in order to approach all of those issues, the joint pain, the sleep problems, the hot flashes because you have them, like all of those things, you can supplement to the nines. But if your gut health isn't there, you're not going to get any value from them. We underestimate the role of the gut. Same thing with hormones. I can take all the hormones in the world, but if my body's not able to process what I take, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So we really have to look at what we're really experiencing. So what I would mean by that is it's not just taking a supplement. This is, again, a reminder why nutrition is so key. Exercise is so key. Stress management is so key. Sleep.
You can't out supplement your way out of a bad diet. I mean,
Truth.
You can't.
We always say you can't outrun your fork.
I like that. Can't outrun your fork. And I feel like also, though, at the level of the gut, which is why in functional medicine, everything kind of comes back to the gut. And I do think there's a lot of truth to that, is because I even tell people, you can be eating all the right things. And if you are not digesting and absorbing those foods, then you're not getting the benefit of it. And that's where I tell people, like, look at your stools, look in the toilet and see, are you seeing undigested food particles and things like that? Because that will start to give you a picture of, are you digesting? Because if you're seeing those, you're not absorbing those sorts of things. So I do think that's a really important piece of this, of like, if you're bringing all these great things in, but you're not seeing the benefit, then you have to, again, dig figure
deeper.
out the layers of the onion and peel back and look into the gut and get testing done. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great advice. And I think you do a lot of the right things. So it's just, okay, you got to get the puzzle pieces in the right place to make everything click.
Yeah. And we don't know if we don't test.
Test, don't guess.
Test, don't guess.
And how are you feeling? Too,
and go by, how do you feel if you still don't feel right? And yes, looking at what's coming out. What's your Bristol
stool chart.
Stool chart. Love that thing. People
Type
say
1
all the
through
time,
7.
if you're not comfortable talking about poop, this may not be the conversation for you.
Poop.
Poop. Say the word.
Poop. Say it with us now. Poop. We on the Bristol stool chart, we want type 3, type 4.
Yes.
We want the snake sausage.
Yeah.
Formed.
I don't usually call them snake or sausage. That's new for me.
Snake or sausage. You want it to be formed, easy to pass. Just had to get that.
You don't want to strain. It shouldn't be little rabbit stuff. And it shouldn't. We used to talk about, should it float? Shouldn't it float? Shouldn't float. Shouldn't float. If it's floating, it's greasy. It's full of fats.
And then you're not absorbing.
And you're not absorbing things. Yeah. Same thing. They used to say supplements are nothing more than expensive urine because we urinate out what we don't need.
Of the water soluble ones. Yeah. Right.
So, and there's some truth to that, which again says, I'm supplementing and I'm hydrating, but everything is still not right.
Yeah.
Then maybe I need to look at something else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and it depends on the water solubility, the fat soluble, all those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
And with the supplement thing, I think it's always food first, and then that's what we're saying. Look at the other factors other than food. And then if you're still having symptoms, maybe those supplements can help modulate things. But yeah, it has to be something that's affordable, and you want to see if you could benefit from it. Try it. And
I think the first thing I tell people is cut out anything processed. If it comes in a package, don't eat it. Now that gets a little complicated because right now you can buy fresh vegetables in a package. Right?
That's the thing. That is my issue. I love Trader Joe's so much, and I have a hard time buying so much produce from them because even their organic produce, it's all in plastic. And I'm like, wrap. I'm glad that it's not touching things that maybe it shouldn't, but I don't like that waste whatsoever, and that can't be good.
But you see that now in all the grocery stores that are making prepackaged meals. Like you can go in and you can buy your broccoli and your salmon or your asparagus and all in a package. And just take it off the shelf, take it home and cook it for 20 minutes. Everything's there.
Yeah.
It's great, but the packaging it's an endocrine disruptor.
Yeah.
Right? Where that incorporates it. And the steam your vegetables in a bag in the microwave. No. Don't microwave your vegetables or your food. It depletes all the nutrients.
Yeah, please don't microwave your food in plastic anymore.
And don't do it in plastic.
And don't drink out of a plastic water bottle after it's been in the sun.
Oh, yeah. Carcinogens released from the heat. And don't do that either.
That's the thing, is that it is this whole complex picture of how can we reduce toxic burden, which that can reduce the endocrine disruptors, right? Even I try not to touch receipts I try to like when somebody's giving me a receipt, I'll like try to grab the back side of it when there's no like of the ink, or I'll be like, you can just put that in the bag, or I always opt for the email it if I can. And you do what you can do, right? Like I'm not gonna let it stress me out,
right?
Because stress is like
stress impacts all of the above,
everything.
But I think we can't even talk about it. It's a whole nother podcast talking about the products we put on our body, the makeup we use, the body soaps we use, the shampoos we use, the perfumes we use. Yes. All of those things have some level of endocrine disruptor in it, and your endocrine disruptors impact your hormones. Yep. So, and then a whole nother layer, what's the quality of the water you drink, the pipes it runs through? Like there are so many things that we can't control everything. We're living in the real world. Right. But just to be informed and aware about what impacts all of the above, like the EWG. Do you use EWG?
Yeah, that's my favorite. The EWG is gold standard. Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. That's where the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen lists come from. And they have great, a plethora of research. And they have an app called the Healthy Living app where you can scan barcodes and they can tell you. And I think that can be overwhelming, and I sometimes just use it as like a jumping off point to help make decisions. Yeah,
I actually used it recently to look at the water, because they have a water quality for every town or every county it is. I'm not sure, but I just looked at the Saratoga County water and what are the top chemicals in it, because there are some.
Yeah. How's it looking?
Not as bad as others. That's what I'm going to tell you.
Well,
it's not perfect. We have our issues, but everybody does. And again, we're looking at old systems, old pipes, old infrastructure. But yeah, it was really interesting. It's enlightening.
Well, I started using a triple filter, like an RO, reverse osmosis.
Yeah, that's what I have.
The carbon filter, the charcoal filter. But now I'm looking into remineralizing, because that's stripping away everything, and then we're not getting the minerals too. So it's kind of never ending, and you can just do what you can do, Yeah. I just had to get a new air filter because mine almost like blew up on me. But I like using an air filter, running overnight and things like that. Again, I eat organic when I can, but when I'm out, I'm not stressing about it.
Right.
So everybody has different things that stress them out, and
we want to minimize our stress.
Exactly.
Yeah. Healthy stress.
Yeah, good stressors in the body.
There's a thing called healthy stress.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be a whole mitochondrial podcast, which maybe we should do that.
There you go. We could talk about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and the fight or flight versus the rest and digest. And
I think that's the most fascinating thing.
I love it.
We need to all move into that parasympathetic mode.
We're totally nerding out.
Let's zen out right now. Karin, listen, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
Oh, this was so fun. Thank you for inviting me.
I've learned so much from you.
Oh, I feel like we teach each other.
Yeah. I learn something new every day when I talk to you. But I also want you to tell us about your new business.
So my new business, thank you. Mm-hmm. It's Power of One Health. I offer functional medicine services. We have a website, powerofonehealth.com.
This is so needed.
We are based in the Saratoga area, but my services are New York statewide because we do virtual visits. I will also do home health visits. So I will come to your house if you'd rather do all of it there.
Incredible. House
or
call.
I'll come to your work or wherever. I'll meet you where you are, and we work on root cause foundational issues, whether that's your hormone health or your gut health or your brain health or weight loss, whatever you're struggling with. There's usually an underlying root cause that we can help bring to light to get you feeling better and back on track.
Incredible. And I think functional medicine is starting to come to the surface, and we need more practitioners like you. I need more people like you to send my clients to. And you can do so much in terms of testing as well.
Testing, and there will be times when traditional medicine is needed. You might need something, but every time you take an antibiotic, you disrupt your gut health, which has a longer term effect. So it's just being aware, making informed choices, asking questions, being open,
having support,
having that system. As much as she's saying that she would use me, I would refer to her, because nutrition health is probably the number one foundation for functional medicine. It's good nutrition. and it starts there. The one thing I do like to say about functional medicine that I like to clear up front, number one, it's not a pill for every ill. It's not a fix that's quick. It requires a partnership, and it's not a, I'll do it for you. It's you have to put in the work, but the work is 1,000% rewarding and has unexpected results. Like I have people that I've treated for, say, candida overgrowth or fungal overgrowth who are like, oh my God, I lost weight. I have so much more energy. My skin is clear.
Brain fog
is lifted. My sleep is so much better. Like it's just such a life-changing process.
Yeah, you just have to be in it.
You just have to be willing to partnership and do the work,
But then it's like you're changing those habits that then you stick with them, and your long-term health is so much better for it.
So much better. And that's part of what we advertise is resiliency in health and longevity.
Yeah.
Because you want to not do things today just to help impact your health for tomorrow or the next week. You want to do whatever you're doing today is going to impact where you are in 10 years, in 20 years. You know, you don't want to be 60 and in a wheelchair. You want to be 60 and playing with your kids and running around and living the best life.
That's what I talk to people about. Like, what's your why? Like, why do you care to feel better? And then you have to use that as your driver to show up every day, do those small needle movers that do make a huge difference over time. But it's kind of counter to like our quick culture, quick fix, things like that. Again, that just doesn't work.
It doesn't.
I always say short-term results lead to short-term results.
Yeah.
Right? Like if something happens quickly, it's also going away quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a long-term process. And I know you work with your family to try to make them healthy. And I know that I work with my mom and my dad to try to keep them healthy, you know, whether it's a supplement or for mobility and movement or nutrition, photomodulation, whatever it is. I'm like out there promoting because I want everybody to be healthy. And I want them to be healthy, not just for the next family reunion, but for the family reunion we're going to have in 20 years from now.
And you're feeling better. And it's also, you're investing a little bit more money up front, but you're saving thousands of dollars over the decades. And I think, again, it's a little bit of a mindset shift that takes a minute. And that's fine and that's fair. But, you know, when people are ready, we'll be here.
Yeah, most functional medicine practitioners don't take insurance. They will take an HSA or an HFA.
Yeah, that's what I accept those.
And luckily, what I say to people when they're like, oh, but I have insurance for that. You do. And your $40 copay when you go see your doctor gets you your 15-minute visit that talks about one issue and you're one and done. Are
you getting your questions answered?
Are you getting the questions? And more importantly, are you getting the information that you need to make good decisions and be healthy in the long run? Yeah. And the Power of One Health really came about because I'm a firm believer that one choice, one action, one person changes not just their own lives, but it changes the lives of their family, which impacts that family's friends and the whole community. And the only way we change the world is if we start with one step.
Oh, I love that. It's the ripple effect.
It's the ripple effect, Power of One Health.
And the fact that we are kind of who we surround ourselves with, too.
And it highlights the interconnectedness that even though I don't live in California, I don't live in New Zealand, the things I do could potentially have an impact all the way out. Like we are all interconnected. That what we put out is what we get.
And that's another note of the functional medicine paradigm is that connectivity, the relationships, the community.
Yeah.
That's part of health, too.
Yeah, and I love how as a nurse practitioner, our mantra is always that, you know, we're collaborators. We have a collaborative relationship with everything. Mm-hmm. It just fits so perfectly with functional medicine because we're a partnership or a collaboration for better health and wellness for everyone.
I'm so grateful to have you in this area.
And we need all of you, so.
Yes, join the movement.
Join the movement.
I mean, this is going to be, again, hopefully medicine 3.0. Like, this is just what medicine will be. It won't be this, like, alternative, you know, kind of thing. Hopefully, we're just moving towards it. But we're still at the forefront, so.
We are, but we're not. Functional medicine that term was coined, you know, almost 100 years ago.
And
it
yet,
is not
people
new.
also still don't know what it is.
Exactly, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. If you just think of it, functional is about staying functional.
Lifestyle medicine,
which is a whole new. That actually is the newer term. We're hearing people say lifestyle medicine.
I like that.
Yeah, No, I'm all for it.
Well, Karin, thank you so much for coming on to the Restore Lab podcast. So happy to have you
So
here.
happy to
Your
be here.
wealth of information.
Thank you so much.
And you shared your powerofone.com.
Powerofonehealth.com.
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 If you want to work with Karin, she's incredible. Highly recommend her. And thank you for informing us more about women's health. I think, again, we hear a lot of things, but we need to cut through to like what the real research says.
Yeah. And please know that functional medicine isn't quackery. It really is founded in science. It's very researched.
Absolutely rooted in science. That's all it is. Exactly. It's more focused on preventative than reactive, right? Like the acute care setting.
Yes. So thank you very much.
Thanks
this
everyone
is so
for
fun.
tuning in. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.